On today's show, the Capitals were busy on the first day of free agency. Free agency didn't even start, and the Capitals acquired Jakob Chychrun. I'll break down the day's activities next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, you wanted big moves. You got big moves as Brian McClellan went out and swung for the fences and connected by landing Jakob Chychrun for this team. What a move, and how did he get that done? We'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll talk about the additions of Matt Roy, Brandon Duhaime, Taylor Raddysh, and the contract extension of Connor McMichael. But just to get it going here, that was the big move. The thing that set the wheel in motion was GM Brian McClellan going out and making a big, bold move in connecting. It has been quite a few days here, let's say, since last weekend in the draft. GM Brian McClellan has been very active. Let's take a look at the players that came in. Andrew Mangiapane, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Logan Thompson, Jakob Chychrun, Matt Roy, Brandon Duhaime, Taylor Raddysh. A lot of great additions to this team. Who's left this team? Max Pacioretty, Nicolas Aube-Kubel, Nick Jensen, Beck Malenstein, and Darcy Kemper. So to say that some of the moves were a little bit meh, I guess would be an understatement. Some of the moves that were made today are a little bit bigger than others, and still more moves to be made, as this is just the start of free agency. But right out of the gate, real impressed. Before they even officially started the program for free agency, they announced that the Capitals had acquired Jakob Chychrun. What a move. And as Capitals fans, you should be pretty hyped. The Capitals have made significant offseason roster changes, including acquiring Jakob Chychrun and signing defenseman Matt Roy, left wing Brandon Duhaime, and right wing Taylor Raddysh. The team also secured a 2-year extension with center Connor McMichael. Additionally, the Capitals have been proactive in addressing the restricted free agents, signing Ethen Frank, Chase Priskie, and Mitchell Gibson, with 2 more RFAs to address. These moves reflect the team's commitment to strengthening their roster for the upcoming season. And I was watching the various talking heads. I had Frank Saravalli's The Daily Faceoff. I had the NHL Network. I was going from different networks, and just the feeling out there was that Jakob Chychrun was a big move, that the Capitals acquiring him and got him for next to nothing. I'm going to be honest with you. I know we lost Jensen in a draft pick in that mix, but all things considered, I'm going to call that a win for the Capitals. What kind of left the talking heads scratching their heads was, I thought this team was not going to do a rebuild for a while. And it kind of, they said that this team is fighting for the middle. Like the moves that they made today were good, but not ultimately to make them next level. See the Nashville Predators, for example. See some of the moves that the Chicago Blackhawks, the Vancouver Canucks made. All things considered, I'm going to enter into this with a positive attitude. I think he did a pretty good job. And this is still ultimately, at the end of the day, building a supporting cast around Alex Ovechkin so he can reach Gretzky's goal, so the Capitals can win another cup. And as I record this right now, I think the Capitals are in a much better position right now than they were to end the season. The Capitals acquired Jakob Chychrun. The Capitals have completed and signified a big upgrade to their defensive lineup by acquiring defenseman Jakob Chychrun from the Ottawa Senators. In exchange, they traded Nick Jensen and a 2026 third-round pick to complete the deal. This trade was announced just before the start of free agency, and that's when I knew things were going to go in a big direction for the Capitals. That was the first big move announced to kick it all off. Quite something. So say you are just a Capitals fan and you're like, well, who is Jakob Chychrun? I'm not too familiar. Let's talk about him. Chychrun's playing style and impact. Chychrun is known for his offensive prowess as a left-hand shot defenseman. He is versatile, capable of making an impact in various game situations, and is expected to provide a significant boost to the team's power play with his quick hands and powerful shot. That's one of the things that the Capitals were looking for, addressing the blue line. I think that John Carlson did a good job filling in the gaps when there were deficiencies on the blue line, but it's never a good situation to have him playing 30 minutes a night, which he routinely played between 25 and 30 minutes a night. So to have this added addition to this team, including the addition of Matt Roy, it puts them in a good position. Talking about Chychrun's attributes, additionally, he is known for his ability to log substantial ice time. Check, check. While he is still honing his defensive skills, his arrival is anticipated to add firepower to the team's defensive lineup, particularly within the top four positions. Make no mistake about it. I see him coming here and making a huge impact in a hurry. The description of Chychrun's skills and attributes described as an unyielding two-way defenseman and a rising star with exceptional skating abilities. Chychrun is recognized for his physical presence on the ice. He displays composure in high-pressure situations and has demonstrated proficiency in directing the flow of play up the ice. His powerful shot is a notable asset, particularly effective during power plays and forechecks. Furthermore, he exhibits excellent passing ability, vision, and awareness, contributing to maintaining puck control and facilitating plays. Again, that is why they went out and got a top-tier defenseman. Are there better defensemen out there? Sure, but I do think that Jakob Chychrun was up there. There were a lot of teams vying for his services, and at the end of the day, that was a key addition to this team. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of role he takes on. I expect him to take on a lot of ice time to help mitigate all the time that John Carlson is playing. And this team is in a good position right now with Martin Feravari, with Rasmus Sandin, with Ethan Bear potentially playing a bigger role, not to mention Alex Alexiev and what other players that are on Hershey that might be ready for a promotion. But it wasn't that. If that was just it alone, well, that would a really good start, but the Capitals weren't done there. The signing of Matt Roy, the Capitals further bolstered their defensive roster by signing Matt Roy to a 6-year contract. Roy's contract, with an average annual value of $5.5 million, represents a significant commitment by the Capitals to secure his services. Known for his strong defensive awareness and contribution to breaking the puck out and initiating plays, Roy's addition is intended to compensate for the departure of Nick Jensen, who was part of the trade that brought Chychrun to Washington. Not surprising. As Capitals fans, I don't think that you should be surprised that Nick Jensen got dealt out. I would say the same thing for TVR. While they shown glimpses of greatness, I think that the Capitals are in a better position right now. Like I talked about there, not to mention what could potentially happen in camp, guys in Hershey waiting for their promotion. If you want to get familiar with what kind of player he is, Matt Roy's skills and attributes, standing at 6'2" and weighing 210 pounds, Roy made a substantial impact during his time with LA. His offensive contributions accumulating 5 goals and 20 assists in 81 games. reflect his ability to actively engage in the play from the blue line. Notably, Roy's versatility and reliability on the ice make him a valuable asset who can effectively navigate defensive responsibilities while also demonstrating his ability to contribute offensively. A good two-way defenseman, I think, tailor-made for the Capitals. Really great move. Roy's professional trajectory and value to the Capitals. Roy's trajectory in professional hockey has been characterized by steady development and perseverance. His journey from the university hockey to the AHL and finally to a prominent role in the NHL showcases his commitment and dedication to honing his skills. Since joining the LA Kings, he has evolved into a pivotal member of the team's defensive unit, earning recognition as a top 4 defenseman on a competitive playoff contending team. Notably, his ability to excel in both defense and offense of the game contributed to his value. And what he brought to the Kings, he now brings to the Capitals. A really solid move for the Capitals. Again, I think that Brian McClellan knocked it out of the park. The strategic implications of Roy's acquisition. The Capitals' decision to secure Roy's services further solidifies their defensive capabilities, recognizing he demonstrated strengths, particularly in the defensive play and the ability to contribute offensively. So a huge move for the Capitals, and I think that the team is in a much better position right now. I also think, in particular, the blue line is a lot better, not to mention the moves that were made to solidify offensively. I think the Capitals, like I say, are in a much better position than they were to end the season. And that's what it's all about, taking steps forward. Again, this is just all the information that was kind of flung at us. And one day I will be able to go into depth about Chychrun, Roy, Duhaime, Raddysh, more in depth. What kind of player are the Capitals getting here? Right now, I'm just trying to give you an overview of what kind of player these players are. And in coming weeks here, I can go a little bit more into depth about Chychrun, Roy, Duhaime, and Raddysh and what kind of player they are. But all things considered, I think that GM Brian McClellan knocked it out of the park, and this is just the beginning of it. There could still be more moves coming, but a really good start to the first day. All right, so coming up here after the break, I will talk about Duhaime and Raddysh. Where do they fit into the Capitals' master plans? I'll discuss straight ahead. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And let's not forget, guys, Major League Baseball is still going on right now. James Wood, his Major League debut is tonight. So there's a lot of things to bet on. There is a lot to like about FanDuel. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/locked-on and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team. It is every day. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So some big moves took place here over the last few days. We do know that Beck Malenstein got dealt out to the Sabres, and now we find out that Nicholas Aube-Kubel also is going out to the Buffalo Sabres. So that leaves Nick Dowd. So who are going to be the players to fill in the gaps? Well, what did he go out and do? What did GM Brian McClellan do? He signed Duhaime and Raddysh ostensibly to fill that fourth line role. I think good moves, all things considered. Let's dig into it a little bit more. The Capitals have made Big acquisitions, making some significant roster changes. The team signed left wing Brandon Duhaime and right wing Taylor Raddysh to new contracts. According to report, Duhaime's deal is for 2 years and with an average annual value of $1.85 million, while Raddysh's contract is for 1 year at $1 million. Upon trading away Beck Malenstein to facilitate a move up in the second round of the NHL draft and parting ways with unrestricted free agent Nicolas Aube-Kubel. The Washington's team robust fourth line found itself lacking 2 wingers, including now Nick Dowd is there kind of holding it down, kind of the identity of the fourth line. So it's good that GM Brian McClellan had the mindset that, hey, I created a hole on the fourth line. I'm going to go out and address that. I'm not going to cross my fingers and hope that we have, talent in Hershey that's going to fill in that role. Potentially they may have. But I think it was the right thing to do to go out and to plug the gaps that you created around the lineup. And hopefully the Capitals are the better for it. And just on paper, I think it looks to be really good. Brandon Duhaime, originally from Florida, has a background in hockey, given his father was a former professional hockey player at the AHL and ECHL levels. He was drafted by the Minnesota Wild in 2015 and later spent time playing with Providence College before joining Minnesota's farm system. After a stint with the AHL Wild team, he made the opening night roster for the 21-22 season. Despite struggling with injuries, Duhaime has showcased his physical style of play and offensive capabilities. Following 3 seasons with the Wild, he was traded to Colorado. At the 2024 trade deadline, his new contract with Washington is for 2 years. Let's get into the nitty gritty. What kind of stats has he put up? Duhaime, 27, recorded 13 points, 5 goals, 8 assists in 80 games with the Minnesota Wild and Colorado Avalanche. The Coral Springs, Florida native averaged a career high 1052 of ice time per game, while his 208 hits ranked 20th among all NHL forwards. In addition, Duhaime finished the season ranked 5th among NHL right wings in shorthanded ice time. A good upgrade. And, you can kind of see why they picked the players that they did. I mean, you take a look at Malenstein, a guy that has a physical flair to it. It does appear that Duhaime does as well. Duhaime spent originally drafted by Minnesota in the 4th round of the 2016 NHL draft. He is set for bigger things with the Capitals. Duhaime averaged a career high 17 points in 80 games with the Wild in 21-22. The 6'2", 200-pound forward has recorded 40 points. So a pretty good upside, all things considered. And again, stopgap measures to plug holes around the lineup with the subtractions of Malenstein and Nicolas Aube-Kubel. Next, you're talking about Taylor Raddysh. On the other end, Taylor Raddysh, a 26-year-old winger, brings size and skill to the Capitals' bottom 6. With experience playing for the Chicago Blackhawks and the Tampa Bay Lightning, Raddysh has proved himself as a valuable asset. He tallied 14 points in 73 games with the Blackhawks and boasts a total of 36 goals and 73 points in 225 games. A 26-year-old forward has an impressive 23-24 season with the Blackhawks. He has proved to be a valuable asset to the team, ranking him in shorthanded ice time, hits, and block shots among Blackhawks forwards. So a lot of the stats that you listen to here are similar to the kind of stats that Malenstein and Nicolas Aube-Kubel put up. So it's interesting that they kind of created, I'm not going to say carbon copies, but quite similar players. On the international stage, Raddysh represented Canada at the 2017 and 2018 IIHF World Junior Championships, achieving a silver medal in 2017 and a gold medal in 2018. His talent and achievements, both in the NHL and internationally, make him a notable and a valuable player in the hockey world. So big moves by Brian McClellan, and all things considered, I said, I think he did a pretty good job. Capitals fans, hit me up on Twitter at LockedOnCaps or at DanCaps218. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with the moves that GM Brian McClellan made today? Were there better moves? Potentially. The thing that I like so far about what I've observed is he has not mortgaged the farm for this win now mode that we've seen historically. I'm going to give up a top prospect for this win now mode, seeking out a veteran that is potentially going to win us a Stanley Cup. I like how he has adjusted his position to widen the lens a little bit and say, hey, I want to build a team that is going to be good for years to come. And in order to do that, I'm going to not mortgage away players that are going to be a key part of that success. So a tip of the hat to GM Brian McClellan on that. It's kind of an intangible, something that you have to look into a little bit. But historically, if you want to even take a look at the last handful of years, that's what they've done. I'm going to trade away this prospect, this top draft pick, for this player that potentially could take us over the top. So I'm glad that he made these moves that suit the Capitals right now, but not so crazy that it cost him a lot. I mean, you take a look at what the Capitals had to give up to get Chychrun. Not a lot. So all things considered, a really great first day for the Capitals. And I'm hoping that there are maybe bigger and better things that lie ahead. All right. So coming up here after the break, it wasn't just that. GM Brian McClellan took care of business by signing Connor McMichael to an extension. I'll discuss straight ahead. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So it wasn't just the moves, it wasn't the trades, it wasn't this, that. It was him also going out and taking care of the players that are on the active roster, whether they be on the Capitals or playing for the Hershey Bears, to bring back the players that needed to come back. And that was an important part of this mix as well. And when you take a look at it, it's kind of hard sometimes to have that kind of vision. I don't know all the guys that work for Brian McClellan, but he must have quite a few different people out there that are trying to keep their eyes on all different angles. The draft, you're talking about free agency, not to mention what are you going to do with your UFAs and RFAs. I'm glad that he took care of the players that needed taken care of. Most notably, Connor McMichael. The Washington Capitals ensured they secured their most significant restricted free agent with a compelling move on Monday, just ahead of the commitments of free agency. They inked a 2-year extension deal with Connor McMichael. GM Brian McClellan announcing the contract details, a bridge deal worth $4.2 million, carrying an average annual value of $2.1 million. Standing at 6 feet and weighing 180 pounds, McMichael stood as the sole RFA on the NHL roster that required attention, especially after Beck Mallenstein's recent trade to the Sabres. Notably, McMichael's emergence as a full-time NHL player followed a strong sophomore season with the Capitals, transitioning from spending the majority of the 22-23 season with the Hershey Bears. This is a guy that put in the time. This was the right move. This is a part of the future and the present, if you will. I do see Connor McMichael being on the ice in the fall. During this past season, McMichael showcased his prowess in 80 games by notching up an impressive 18 goals and 15 assists, summing up to 33 points. His growth was evident as he assumed a more substantial role in the subtraction of Nicklas Backstrom. Operating within the top six and embracing the duties of a full-time center, additionally, the 23-year-old displayed versatility by contributing to special teams, gaining more responsibility on the power play and the penalty kill as the season progressed. So a good move for the Capitals, all things considered. This was that strategic move that a lot of people talked about, that there should be a bridge deal out there. And that is what the Capitals did as well. They weren't done there as well. Ethen Frank signed a 2-year contract, $1.55 million extension. The initial year of Frank's contract is characterized as two-way, but it will transition into a one-way deal in the second year. Anticipated to contend for NHL playing time in the upcoming season following an impressive year with the Bears. This has got to be the season for Ethen Frank. Make no mistake about it. Chase Priskie as well. I think another key to the Capitals' future, agreed to a 1-year, 2-way extension valued at $775,000 at the NHL level. Delivered an impressive inaugural season with the Hershey Bears as a top 4 puck-moving defenseman, securing 8 goals and 26 assists, accumulating 34 points in 69 regular season games. Led all AHL Blue Liners in scoring with 14 points in 20 postseason games. Another important move, having your eyes set on the present, but also the future. And if we want to talk about the future in net, Mitchell Gibson agreeing to a 1-year, two-way extension valued at $775,000 at the NHL level, concluded his first professional hockey season, transitioning from the Stingrays, attaining a 22-14-6 record with an .899 save percentage. So I did throw a lot of information at all of you that are listening or watching this today, but it was for a reason. There was a lot of ground to cover. Again, I can go into depth on these moves a whole lot more in upcoming episodes, but those were the big moves. Chychrun, big. I think the addition of Roy as well, really beefing up that blue line, something that John Carlson was able to say, hey guys, you're not pulling your weight. I guess I'm just going to have to take it all on. Now he's not going to have to do that as much, as Jakob Chychrun is a guy that is known for logging heavy minutes. Also, taking care of the things that needed to be taken care of. I'm talking about the fourth line in particular, Duhaime, Raddysh, big moves, and that's just part of it. Rewinding time, and these moves, excuse me, I'm going to talk about next. All of these are potential upgrades. We don't know how this is going to play out until the games start being played. But what are the big moves that took place before that? Of course, the addition of Pierre-Luc Dubois and Andrew Mangiapane. I think that those were solid moves. I think that they were value deals, all things considered. I don't think that GM Brian McClellan overspent on any of these deals. So all things considered, I think that it was a well thought out process. There are some questions of some of the draft picks that were selected at the draft, but all things considered, I think the Capitals are in a good position. And as long as the team doesn't get dinged up too much in the fall, I think they will be ready to be contenders. Listen, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are what make this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On's 24/7 streaming channel, available on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app and on YouTube. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Duhaime, and I'll talk to you again next time.